I will never respect people jumping on one person. So, CJ, shame on you. And especially when that man is old enough to be your daddy. Hey, what's up and hello? This is the Chris Nicole bringing you my views on life, love, and the world of entertainment through my eyes. And this is my review on Unlocked, a Jail Experiment, Season 1, Episodes 7 through 8. Episode 7 is called New Blood. In my opinion, it's not just about the new bloods that came into the H unit, but it's also about CJ's affiliation that he decided to repeat over and over and over again in this episode. So, of course, they had the vote, and the CEOs leave with all of the votes. However, Eastside decides to take the charge and admit that he's the one who initiated the smoke session. So at that point, he says, look, I'm a man up. I'm admitting my wrong. I'll take the charge. He doesn't even know if he's going to get kicked out of the H unit, but he feels like he needs to be a better example for his cellmate. And I absolutely love that. Eastside, I am proud of you. I just hope you never, ever go into a pet store again, okay? So we find out, though, that because he took the charge and he took accountability for his actions, the sheriff says, we're not going to kick him out of the H unit. We are going to take away his commissary, his phone, and I think they said it was about a week or two. But at that point, because he took all the responsibility, the sheriff cancels the vote. So we don't even find out who actually got the most votes, which I think is a good thing. They are all getting along, and they also bring AJ back into the unit, and he looks so happy to be back with his friends. And even Don hugs them like they're like, oh, AJ is back. And so at that point, Randy says, we got it. We got it. Like we got everything under control now, which means something bad is about to happen. The sheriff gives them more privileges and increases their visitation rights. So everyone is excited, especially Tiny, but him and his baby mama don't really get along. He said it even affects his son. So it makes me wonder, is this the reason why his son hasn't visited him? Because if his mama is not agreeing to it, then he can't come. The visits seem to make the inmates really, really happy. And honestly, I saw some of them in a different light, because seeing their family and friends, it really shows how important it is to them. It's great to talk to them on the phone, but it's also great to see a face and be able to have that connection. At the same time, it also broke some people as well and made me feel bad for certain people like Randy. Randy wanted to see his mom, and I guess because of traffic or however long it took to go get the mom, she couldn't make it. And we find out that Randy lost his brother a couple years back. So just that human connection for him is really important. So I really felt bad for him that he didn't get his visit. The sheriff decides to bring new people, new blood into the H unit. This was a recipe for disaster, and I think he knew that. But this is a TV show. And so, of course, new blood means new problems. Squirrel, however, decides to do a tournament of games after commissary comes in. And so they have a domino game, spades, chess. And for people who win, they pretty much receive commissary like ramen noodles or, different things like that. That makes the game more intense because all of the guys are trying to get this high sodium, high cholesterol food. So at that point, there is an OG that comes into the unit by the name of Weekly. And he's been in the system for some time. And he's affiliated, okay? He is considered an OG based on what Tiny said. So he seems to be braggadocious. He loves to brag. He loves to talk. And at this point, we find out from Squirrel that CJ kind of gets frustrated when it comes to the game because he doesn't really know how to play the game. This weekly guy is pretty much coming at CJ, teasing him for losing the game. Of course, CJ doesn't like that. Now, next thing you know, after hours on top of hours in this tournament, I think they said 5 hours had passed. All of a sudden, CJ accuses Weekly of cheating, which, as you know, is a no-no from our experiences and what they did to Miller when Miller was playing games with them. Now, Mayhem, the one who likes green eggs and ham, claims the guy was cheating, but do we really know? No, we don't, because we didn't see it on the cameras. But the next thing you know, CJ and Weekly go into a room and they start to fight. And it's one-on-one, which I respect. The CO sees the commotion on the camera, and of course, they come into the unit and break it up. But they don't snitch on each other, even though they're out of breath. But they claim, nothing happened. But Weekly tells CJ this ain't over because, of course, he has to fight for his reputation because he has been accused of cheating. So Weekly goes upstairs to speak to his girlfriend and says, look, I just got into this damn unit and I already got into a fight. And so at that point, he tells her, like, look, they probably gonna transfer me out of here by tonight, which means these free calls gonna be over. While he's talking to his girlfriend, CJ and the rest of some of the younger guys who were trying to break it up and tell CJ to calm down, they pass by Weekly, and then CJ tries to punk Weekly out like he's about to put his hands on Weekly, and Weekly jumps up. CJ is amped, ready to go. He's still talking mess while Weekly is on the phone. Next thing you know, Weekly, he's like, okay, let's get it on. He takes off his shirt. I don't think he realizes maybe that there's literally 3 guys who are in the room, or maybe he feels the other 2 are just going to make sure that it's fair. But what happens is CJ, Roscoe, and this guy named D2 decide to jump Weekly. This older man who is probably old enough to be their daddy's age. Okay? Now, I understand they have their affiliations. I could not gather what Weekly's affiliation is. CJ kept saying on colors he was cheating, on colors he was cheating, and he kept saying he was a blood. Now, I think if I'm not mistaken, CJ said, F you bitch and the clique you claim, West Side. He didn't say that. That's the way I was feeling though. That's what I thought he was saying. But I could have sworn CJ said something like F your clique TK or something like that. Either way, I'm assuming these cliques, these gangs, they don't get along. So while they're beating this guy up, he's saying, I'm a blood, I'm a blood. Next thing you know, we hear that Weekly is gasping for air and he's moaning. Sorry, I don't give a damn. That's some weak ass shit. I do not respect that. I really don't. One-on-one all day long. But when you literally have an older man and then 3 of you guys jump him, that tells me Weekly was getting the best of CJ when they had that one-on-one fight. Because if you was whooping his ass when it was one-on-one, you could have kept it one-on-one. You decided to jump him, in my opinion, because that older man was getting in your ass. But with that, that's when the episode goes off. Episode 8, Decision Day. The COs come in and they ask Weekly what happened, and he said he fell off his bed, of course. And so they asked him, can he breathe? And he's like, no. And they said, we're taking you to medical. At that point, I 100% agreed with Randy. Randy said in his confessional he has no respect for jumping, and I totally agree with that. That was a weak ass move. Not to mention CJ and his homies clearly didn't care about the other people in the unit because that fight could have easily stopped the whole entire program. And I believe a couple episodes ago, he was the same guy who claimed Miller was going to cause the program to be shut down, although CJ, remember, was the one who threw water on Miller in the first place. So the sheriff and one of the COs check the cameras and they see how the fight went down. So at that point, they take action. One of the COs come in and says, lock them down again. So they all have to get locked down. Once everyone is locked down, she goes to CJ's cell first and says, pack up your shit. She goes to Roscoe and she goes to D2. So they all have to leave. CJ got a whole smirk on his face, like it's cute what the hell he just did. And pretty much he's like, all right, y'all, peace, y'all. And I'm just like, he's a true example of how some people can't handle anything good in life because they'll just ruin it. Yeah, that's him. Sheriff has a meeting with everyone in the H unit again. And he's pretty much like, y'all know y'all done effed up, right? Y'all know y'all done effed up. And he's like, look, at this point, you need to convince me why I should leave these doors open after 6 weeks. And he leaves. So all of the inmates talk amongst each other and they come up with a plan. And Randy says, new people need to have like a 30-minute orientation and says, you either gonna do this or you're out of here or the mentor will take care of you. Now, Randy, the problem with the mentor will take care of you, we've seen what your take care of you means in your mind. That's not leadership. So I'm hoping your mentor will take care of you will mean that they will talk to them or they will pretty much suggest that they get out of the unit. But Mayhem actually says, look, the youngins, we may act immature in our ways, but we appreciate y'all OGs. But I also loved when Tiny said, look, I feel like when the OGs are doing too much, the youngins should be able to approach us and let us know how they feel. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about, Tiny. And even Randy agreed. And I said, okay, we're getting somewhere. Even with their jail voices, because they were still screaming and loud as hell when they were talking, but even in their jail voices, they were finally getting it. Randy decides to talk to Chauncey about their WrestleMania fight and apologizes. He actually apologizes for taking it there. And I'm like, thank you, Randy. Thank you. Thank you for being responsible for some of the things you did during this show and during this program. He says that this program helped him learn how to talk to people. And we find out when he's talking to Chauncey that Randy has kids. And when he first went to prison, his first bid, he said he was 22 and he didn't come out until he was 30. And when he went in, his kids were like 1 year old. So Randy seems like he's just been in and out of jail. So I don't know if he's ever had a time to really be able to sit down and raise his kids. So at that point, he goes in into his confessional and says he's becoming a better man. Chauncey goes into his confessional and he gets really emotional. He said Chauncey in his confessional gets emotional and he says he doesn't know if he's ever going home. And that's why a lot of the guys in jail, they're so mad and upset because they also don't know if they're ever going home. And so at that point, when they don't feel like there's any hope, they have nothing to lose. So they take it out on people in jail. So the sheriff comes in and hears their cases. And Tiny, I am so proud of him. He literally showed how mature he has become, just being able to get the privileges that he's been able to get, especially speaking to his son. And he said, look, we had pod bosses, but I don't want to use that word. I would prefer to say mentors. And the sheriff was like, I like that. And so they all are pleading their cases. And he's like, this sounds great, but I don't know if y'all blowing smoke up my ass. I mean, at the end of the day, y'all all participated in some kind of way with the BS. You didn't make the hooch, but you probably took a shot of the hooch. You may not have been in the fight, but you saw someone get their ass kicked. And so at that point, he said, well, when did you guys come up with this plan or, decided on this and working together and getting along? They said, oh, we decided last night. And he said, last night, y'all decided to make these decisions last night after 6 weeks of being in this program. So at that point, Poet, he says, look, we appreciate you having patience with us, but there's a reason why we're in here. We slow to develop. He actually said the word slow, which I don't agree with, because honestly, I feel like there are some very intelligent people in jail. It's just due to the lack of resources, the lack of, a strong family dynamic, and not just the lack of resources like in their home also, but the lack of resources on being able to get a great attorney. A lot of people are in jail because they don't have good attorneys. Okay, let's just keep it real. A lot of them, if they had great attorneys, they would probably have probation, if anything at all. Just saying. Well, for some of them. At that point, the sheriff's like, I have to think about it. Crooked is getting out soon, and he said that he wants to go to rehab, and he says that he just wants to be able to take care of himself and other people. And I just found that interesting because it's amazing how us in the free world, we sometimes get tired of always taking care of ourselves, paying bills, taking care of others. But to hear someone like Crooked who just wants to be able to do that, take care of himself and take care of other people, in my opinion, it just put a lot of things into perspective for me. And just let me know that I need to be grateful. I think all of us sometimes we get frustrated with life, but then you hear these type of stories and you just say, you know what? I'm thankful and I'm blessed and I'm highly favored. So the sheriff comes back and gives his long drawn out speech and then pretty much says he's going to leave the doors open. Tiny was expecting bad news. You saw it all on his face. But when he realized the sheriff said he was going to leave the doors open, he was so happy because he knew he was going to be able to see his baby boy. Now, in the process of, I believe it was episode 7, Crooked got Tiny ready for his visit with his son. I'm assuming he had Nair or he had something, of course, that removes the hair because they can't have razors in the jail. And it was so funny because Tiny was like, look, you got to get me straight because I don't need to be looking like your ugly ass. And for the most part, when Crooked was helping him, he was like, man, this stuff stank. He was like, it smelled like something coming from a toilet. He was like, is it supposed to smell like this? Cricket was like, yeah, it's supposed to smell like this. It smells bad. It smells bad. He was like, man, he was like, what the hell? He was like, is it supposed to burn like this? He was like, yeah, it's gonna burn. It's gonna burn. So literally, they just going back and forth where Tiny's saying, it stank, it smell. And Cricket's like, it's gonna stink, it's gonna smell. I thought that was a cute scene. We finally see that Tiny has his visit with his son and his baby mama. To me, his son looks like a perfect blend of both parents. In my opinion, if I can be honest, the baby mama didn't look like she wanted to be there. Tiny tells them he's sorry. When he says that he's sorry, he's really looking at his baby mama when he says he's sorry. And again, makes me wonder even more, what the hell did you do? What happened? But the son lifts up his hands and he's like, you're forgiven. And it was a cute scene. Even the baby mama had to smile at her son. She doesn't say anything, no. She kind of still side-eyeing Tiny. And Tiny says, I love y'all, man. And then he says, I love you too. And I think her name is Bree. He was like, I love you too, Bree. And she kind of side eyes him, but laughs. And, she looks at her son and she says, I love you too to Tiny. And Tiny was smiling so hard. And when he got back into the unit, I mean, he was talking to Poet and he was just smiling. He just couldn't help himself. And I was like, this is the good feeling. This is what I love to see with reality shows. Like there's drama, but there's balance. So they give us an update. We find out that Randy is still in jail awaiting trial and he's still being a mentor. Hopefully being a mentor will help as far as his sentencing is concerned. But I don't know how much time he's facing. I forgot if they told us. Eastside was transferred to prison to finish his 3-year sentence. Ty was transferred to prison to finish his 20-year sentence. And I could have sworn he said, I'm going to finish up this little bit. Little my ass. Maybe it's a little bit to you. Gosh, like, do people in jail really think 20 years is a little bit? Like, that's scary. Don was bailed out by his family, so hopefully Don is returning the favor and being there for his sister like his sister has been for him. AJ was sentenced to life plus 15 years. Oh, man. I honestly think he needs to be in a mental facility, like a I don't know. I don't know if prison is the best place for him. I'm just going to be honest. But with the life sentence, there was definitely, I forgot what he did, but I want to say it was the capital one. But he definitely has a mental disability. Crooked went to rehab and is in a sober house, and he wanted to thank the sheriff. He looks good. I am really rooting for Crooked. I hope he stays sober and he really is able to take care of himself and take care of others like he really wants. Like he really wants that. Mayhem is still at the county jail. It didn't say he was in the H unit though, but they said he's still in the county jail. Chauncey, he actually was able to get bonded out. He has an ankle monitor, but he's free right now awaiting trial. Now, apparently the H unit still to this day has their doors open and plans to open up the other units as well. So we see the sheriff go into another unit and he's about to make an announcement and then the episode goes off. Hopefully that means we're going to get another season. I wouldn't mind another season in another unit at that facility or maybe a new facility. I truly think that Netflix really needs to explore this where they can have multiple seasons because I thoroughly enjoyed this reality show. Last but not least, we see Tiny, who's out of jail. He said he is there for his son and he is trying to live right and he's working. And you can tell he's really emotional, but he said he's not going to cry because he's a gangster. And even if he does cry, he damn sure ain't going to cry in front of us. What did you guys think about these last 2 episodes? What did you guys think about this season as a whole? I thoroughly enjoyed this season. I enjoyed everyone on this season, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I really hope that they're able to look at this season, whether they're still in jail or they're out of jail, and truly be able to kind of look at themselves and self-reflect and hopefully can mature based on how they see themselves on TV. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on my next video. Toodles.